I'm Ken Litwak, and today we're going to talk about going beyond your certification, gambling and video gaming. So what does that mean? So I think that some people, in order to get gambling and video gaming certifications, they had to have training. And some people probably had more knowledge than they needed to get these certifications. Some people probably had more than they needed. Some probably needed the training to get right to the certification. Some people probably didn't quite have enough. But what we're going to do today in this presentation, we are going to go right to the basics. We're going to go right up to the certification knowledge-wise, and we're going to go right past it. So we're going to do the whole gamut in this little presentation. So somebody asked me about the letters after my name. I'll go through them real quick because some of them are a little weird. This one means I have a lot of student loan debt. This one is New Jersey licensed drug and alcohol counselor. This one is Arizona drug and alcohol counselor. This one, you all know that one, right? That's a gambling counselor. And this one, does anybody know what that one is? The last one, independent gambling? Well, when we get to the end of this presentation, you're going to think it is. But this one is video gaming addiction counselor. I was the first one in the world to hold that one. Okay, so who am I, right? I came to this conference. This is my first time here. I said I'm from New Jersey. I recently moved to Phoenix. And so I don't know anybody here, right? You guys don't know me. I'm just like a guy in a monkey suit, right? Getting up here, I got a mic, and so who am I? And well, I'm a casual gamer. I'm talking about video games, and I'm not like a huge, heavy gamer. I'm not really a gambler, and I don't have any kids. So I'm really just a guy in a monkey suit. And that's actually me. I do own a gorilla suit. I'm a person in recovery, and in recovery come recovery gifts. One of the very first things that I wanted to get when I got into recovery, I had always wanted this. I always wanted a gorilla suit. So when I got into recovery, I bought myself a gorilla suit, and that's really me. So when I moved to Phoenix, I brought the gorilla suit with me. I don't wear it very often because it's pretty hot in Arizona, but I do still have my gorilla suit. But who am I really? I've been playing video games my entire life. The first video game I ever played was Pong. I remember getting the upgrade to Pong. Does anybody know the upgrade to Pong? There's two paddles on each side, and that's hockey. I played Atari, the Atari home system, before it was called the 2600. And I remember the day that I beat my first game, Yar's Revenge. Anybody ever heard of that game? It's a little obscure game. It was a great day, but it was a sad day because nobody was around, and you couldn't stream back then. So I couldn't show off to anybody that I just beat a game. It was fantastic, but horrible. I remember seeing a PlayStation 1 demo in a KB toy store and thinking, oh my goodness, that's so complicated. I could never play that game. But I did come to Las Vegas and bring my Nintendo Switch with me, just in case I was bored. You ever heard anybody say something like that before? So I've been playing video games my whole life. I still play video games. On my Switch was Fortnite, and that's the game I mostly play, but I also brought FIFA 24. So I play all kinds of games, imports, Katamari Damacy. Anybody ever heard of that game? I didn't think so. Nobody's ever heard of that game. It's a great game. I play shooters and sports games and imports. I play all kinds of games. But I never had a video game addiction. I'm a gambling counselor. I am the executive director of Algamus outside of Phoenix, where we are residential treatment for gambling. Not a drug and alcohol center that has a gambling track. We are residential treatment for gambling. People come from all over the country to get treatment for gambling. In fact, some people come internationally to Algamus as well. We've had clients from Europe and Canada and Israel and India. They stay 4 to 6 weeks, and some people relocate and stay on for IOP. As I said earlier, I'm an IGDC, a video game addiction counselor. I've worked with clients that have had video gaming problems who are as young as 8 years old and as old as 72 years old. When I'm working with video gaming or gambling clients, I've worked with gambling clients that have been in debt as much as $10 million, and I have worked with gambling clients that were able to pay off all of their debts and then walk away up $750,000. The reason I point that out is if you're working with people with gambling problems, you know how rare that is for somebody to walk away a winner. If you're working with gambling problems, you know that never happens. In my career, hardly ever has that happened. Nobody goes out on a win. So I'm just pointing that out to show you the volume of people I really have worked with. This person is a harm reduction guy. We've thrown that phrase around a little bit, and I want to talk to you about exactly what harm reduction is. Harm reduction is not, hey, I had a gambling problem, so I'm going to gamble less. This is a harm reduction plan. A harm reduction plan is, and I'm going to give you this guy's exact harm reduction plan. He gambles $250 every week. Now, for this particular person, I thought that was a low amount. He's got a lot of money. Now, that's $13,000 a year he's spending on gambling. But that, for him, I thought was too little. He was really gambling a lot of money. But that was what he wanted to spend. So that's his budget, $250 every week. His wife created a FanDuel account in her name. Every Monday at 5 p.m., $250 goes in that account. Every Sunday at 7 p.m., he and his wife sit down and talk about how the gambling went all week. He consulted with me on how he's going to spend that $250. Does he start gambling at 5:01 on Monday? Does he spend $40 a day all week long? Does he wait till Friday night and Saturday? Over time, he's kind of settled into waiting to the weekend, and then he gambles. He's also talked about, what about Super Bowl? When Super Bowl came up, could he save up a couple of weeks and then gamble? And honestly, when that time came, he and I talked about it, and I suggested, why don't I ask some of my other clients what they think? And he agreed to it. So anonymously, I asked my other clients what they thought. And what we came up with was he could save up weeks, but he couldn't use any money from the future. He ended up saving 2 weeks and gambled $500 on the Super Bowl. When he went on vacation, he took $250 with him because it was a week. He ended up not gambling that $250 because he was busy with his family. If he wins while he's gambling $250, he's allowed to play with that money up to $1,000. Anything over $1,000 goes in the family savings account. So if he wins $700, he gets to gamble with that $700. If he wins $1,200, $200 goes in the family savings. So it's a very strict harm reduction plan with very strict parameters. He's been doing that for 6 months now. Really wouldn't have been my very first choice, but it's not a scam to get him to see that abstinence doesn't work. It's a harm reduction plan for him. Okay, so let's switch to video games a little bit. There's no true consensus around the diagnostic criteria. Who voted that yes, there is? No, you don't have to raise your hand. But I put a poll out there. And what do you think the results said? That there is or that there isn't? Well, it's interesting. I put it out there before the conference started. And before the conference started, the answers were pretty much, no, there isn't. But then, once the conference started, and Ted got up and said, this is how you start this is how you get into the app, it started to swing the other way. And as the conference went on, it started to swing and change. Now we're up to 17 total responses. We're at 10 no's, 7 yeses. So it's pretty split on whether the DSM criteria for internet gaming disorder are the right criteria or not. Let's take a quick look at them. Now these criteria are pretty much the gambling criteria, which are pretty much drug and alcohol criteria. Preoccupation. Okay. Thinking about video gaming a lot. All right, I'll buy that. 2, experience of unpleasant symptoms when gaming is taken away. We got to talk about this one. You take away an Xbox from a 12-year-old, they're going to act out, right? Everybody knows that. But the average age of a video game player is 33. Any 33-year-olds come into your office and tell you that they're video gaming too much? Right? That's not what you're thinking about, is it? When you're thinking about video game addiction. So, are these the right criteria for the average video game person with a video game problem? The way I see most kids come into my office with a video game problem is not video game addiction. What I'm seeing most often is a credit card is attached to a video game console, and kids have been told, you got to get permission before you buy something. And it pretty much is working. Once in a while, a kid will buy something they're not supposed to. And they get told, don't do that again. And they pretty much don't. But then something happens, and they go off the rails a little bit. They spend too much, a couple hundred here, or maybe $1,000, or maybe $4,000. And when that happens, the parents take away the Xbox or the PlayStation. And then what happens? Then the kids hit the roof. They lose their mind. And the parents think, oh my goodness, my kid just spent $4,000, and now they're losing their mind when I took away the Xbox. They got to be addicted, right? Makes total sense. So now they throw another $1,000 at a therapist like me. The kid thinks, my parents are taking my stuff. I'm not going to do this again. Why do I have to talk to this guy? And that's how I see most kids. Does that really sound like addiction? The need to spend increasing amounts of time playing video games. Okay, video games will do that to you. They'll do that to kids. They'll do that to adults. Unsuccessful attempts to control participation in games. Those kids that are coming to see me are not trying to stop. They don't want to stop. Loss of interest in previous hobbies. I think this is something to talk about too. They're definitely not riding bikes in my neighborhood like I rode bikes as a kid, right? They're not playing basketball. They're not playing baseball. However, I think people my age are missing it a little bit. Kids are definitely engaged with each other in their video games. And when the Xbox gets taken away, they're missing out on hanging out with each other. When parents take that away, that is the equivalent of pulling your kid off the baseball field in the middle of a game. A lot of parents, even when I say that, they swear that that's not true, but it is true. If we were to bring George Washington in this room right now, and he were to watch me call my best friend on the phone, well, first of all, he would probably think I was talking to a ghost or something, but he wouldn't think that was a real human interaction. But I live in Phoenix now. My best friend's still in Atlantic City. We are still connecting. That's how we talk every week. That's the only way I can connect with my best friend. That is real, true human connection. I'm sure everybody in here has somebody they talk to on the phone every week. That's real human connection. But George Washington doesn't understand that technology. Aren't we that person too? When it comes to video game technology and connecting? When I was a kid, my best friend moved away in 4th grade. Kids don't have that anymore. Their best friend moves away and they play with them the next day. They talk to him the next day, if not that day, through video games. Excessive use of games, even though they know they got a psychological problem or a psychosocial problem. I don't know. Is that the right criteria? Do kids know that there's a psychosocial problem going on? Do adults do that anyway? Deceiving family members, therapists, or somebody else about their gaming. Well, kids do play video games under the blanket at night when they're not supposed to. So maybe that might be a thing. But kids do a lot of deceptive stuff, right? Deceiving family members. I just said that, didn't I? I guess I probably don't need to go over that one a second time. Use of games to escape or relieve negative moods. That's 100% one, right? I think that's definitely a good criteria. Video games are great for escape. They touch on 3 of the 5 senses, visual, auditory, tactile. I worked with a kid or a family whose father killed their mother. When that kid went to school, who do you think he was? He was the kid whose dad killed his mom. What do you think school was like for that kid? Where do you think he preferred to be? He preferred to be inside the world of his video game. It was great for escape. Jeopardizing or losing a significant relationship, job, or educational or career opportunity because of gameplay. So I think that's one of the first places parents and anybody really points to about video games interfering in a kid's life. Grades are going down, right? That could be a thing for sure, but school's not keeping up. Throughout the day, lots of presenters have pointed out that people are on their phones. We live in a fast world. This world is faster than the world that I grew up in school. It's faster than it was 10 years ago. It's faster than it was 5 years ago. It's faster than it was at last year's conference. We had somebody think about this. Yesterday, the presenter, was it Rory? Gave his presentation, and then he opened up the internet, and he went on ChatGPT, and he got the same presentation. And now you're asking kids to go into school the same way that I went to school? I'm 57 years old. No wonder kids aren't paying attention. I don't know. It just makes sense to me. The World Health Organization definition of gaming disorder, I hate to read to you because I know you can all read probably better than me, but it's a pattern of gaming behavior characterized by impaired control over gaming, increasing priority given to gaming over other activities, to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other interests in daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming, despite the occurrence of negative consequences. I think that's pretty good. Says a lot of the same stuff as the DSM criteria, but for me it comes down to 2 things. If you want to stop and you can't stop, and it's interfering in your life, if you have those 2 things, you got a problem. If a kid's coming into your office and he wants to stop, but he can't stop, or a 33-year-old is coming into your office and he wants to stop, or she wants to stop and can't stop, and it's interfering in their life, there's a problem. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. let's talk about gambling. This is kind of my style, to throw a bunch of stuff at you, and then I'm going to tie it all together, and I'm hoping you're going to have an aha moment, okay? I'm going somewhere with this. Gambling is not about money, right? If you're working with gamblers, you know this. What is gambling about? It's about behavior, for sure. And what drives behavior? Emotions. When I'm sitting in a room with 10 people that have diagnosed gambling disorder, they are not talking about money. I might have one that's down $1 million, one that's down 50,000, one that's down 20,000, and one that's down 200,000. You know what they're talking about? How they feel crappy because they let down their family, how they deceived people, how they feel terrible because of the things that they did, that they violated their own values. They're looking to improve the way they feel, even when they feel good. They're looking to improve the way they feel when they feel bad. That's what gambling is trying, or that's what someone with a gambling problem is trying to do. DSM even says that. Needs to gamble with increasing amounts to achieve the same excitement, restless or irritable and trying to cut down, or gambling when they're distressed. I think Dr. Fong used that same line as gambling-like activities, video gaming or online activities that are similar to gambling sort of blur the line between gambling and gaming. Now, this stuff isn't regulated. When we walk out of this room and we go up to those slot machines, they are all certified by the state to pay out at certain percentages. They're subject to random checks to make sure that they really are. We're all protected. But when kids, or guys like me, go into video games that have random number generators, just like those slot machines, they are not regulated. They can pay out. They can change the payout percentages. There is no consumer protection. You do have to put in your age, but I certainly have put in the wrong age because I'm too lazy to scroll all the way down to 1967. And it definitely normalizes gaming behavior. Because microtransactions in video games can turn into in-play sports betting. And I'm going to show you that a little later. These countries regulate video gaming, gambling. The United States doesn't. I'm sorry to say it, but we got to talk about loot boxes. Some other presenters brought up loot boxes. They're a bit passé for some people in the gambling world because loot boxes are what got the attention of those of us in the gambling world. And to some degree, we've stopped talking about it a little bit because it's really what brought some of us into the world of video game gambling. But let's talk about it. Let's get everybody up to speed. Let's get everybody on the same page. A loot box is a consumable item. What do I mean by a consumable item? I mean that once you open it, it's open. You can't close it. So it's a treasure chest or a crate or a supply drop, and there's always something in it. It might be something crappy. It might be something, not so bad. It might be something good. It could be a skin. It could be a weapon. It could be potions to heal your character. It could be coins or experience points. And I just used a term. Let's make sure everybody knows what I'm talking about when I use this term. A skin. Today I'm wearing a blue suit. Yesterday I wore a gray suit. Tomorrow I'm going to a soccer game, so I'm going to wear my soccer jersey. That's what you can think of when I say skin. an outfit, or it's a way to decorate my character. Now, in some video games, they're just decorations. In other video games, they actually affect gameplay. Like if I was playing in that soccer game tomorrow, I would be wearing soccer shoes with spikes on the bottom so I could run faster, and that would affect gameplay. Make me, maybe 0.1% better. Maybe it would make some good soccer player 5% better. And that's how video game affecting gameplay can actually work. Now, these loot boxes you can get by buying them with fake video game money, in-game currency. You can find them, you can earn them. Sometimes you can buy them with real money. Sometimes you get them and then you have to get a key to open them. There's lots of different ways, but it depends on the game. Now, these loot boxes are operated by random number generators. That's how you determine what's in them. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Random number generation, just like a slot machine. That's why it's like gambling. Now, the weakest ones, as far as the relationship to gambling, are the free ones, like in Fortnite. Fortnite, there's lots of loot boxes. They're all out there. They're all over the place. You just find them. You open them, and there's always something in them. And it's usually something that's not so great, but sometimes it's stuff that's really, really good. You can't take it out of the game. You just play with it in the game. The next closest association is ones that you have to buy in the game, or ones that when you open it, you can see what you almost got. Like, oh, I could have got that, but I got this. It's kind of like a loss disguised as a win, in a way. But the ones that are most closely associated are tradable content. Ones that you can take out and then trade it with another player and take out of the game and download it and then take to another website. And we'll talk about that in a second. I know you heard this term, and I heard, who was it? Was it Jerry saying he didn't really understand esports? All right. I'm not going to talk much about esports, and I did that intentionally because I figured lots of people would be talking about esports. But we could do a whole hour, really a whole day on esports. When people tell me they don't understand esports, I don't get that. Because when somebody says, I don't understand why somebody would watch somebody else play video games. Well, it's the same thing as watching somebody else play football or watching somebody else play basketball. People are like amazing. Professional basketball players are incredible. And football players are absolutely out of their mind. They're so good. And the Phillies are playing incredible. Any Philly fans in here? All right. I could tell you were all right from the start. So the Phillies are the first team to ever be 700. How about that? Now, we both know they don't start out good usually. So I'm really enjoying this right now. So that's why I'm bringing it to my presentation. But that's an amazing, amazing thing, right? That's why people watch other people play video games. When I was a kid, I went to soccer camp. Soccer camp all summer long. The coaches would have us do drills. We would play games. And then in the evening, we would watch film, actual film, because I'm that old, of better players, the players in the day. And in my day, it was Pele. And when I started playing Fortnite, guess what I did? I started watching the better players on Twitch so I could get better. And that's just what kids are doing today too. People who play video games watch other people play video games just as much as they play. Just like kids watch baseball players when they're playing Little League, just like they're watching professional players in any other sport. That's esports. And you can bet on esports just like you can bet on any other sports. Except you can also bet with skins, you can bet with virtual currency, you can bet with items from your game, you can bet with cash. There are websites just for betting on esports. You can put money on that website, I can put money on that website, and we can bet against each other on esports. And don't forget, esports are also played in stadiums, real stadiums, and you and I could bet next to each other on a stadium. In a stadium, I can say, I bet you $5 this next guy is going to win or lose. So just like traditional stuff, we can gamble that way too. So, skins, once you take them out, they can be traded. They actually have real world value because not all skins are created equal. Some skins are rarer than others, and they have actual real world monetary value. These are the best sites to trade skins for this particular game. Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Anybody heard of that game? Probably everybody, right? Counter-Strike Global Offensive, known as CSGO, is an old game. People have been playing this and gambling on this for a long time. There was an update not too long ago, and now it's called CS-II. These aren't the only sites. These are just the best sites to go to. You can export the skins, go here, and trade them between players, or just with the site. Now, when I say you can trade them and get money for them, you can trade and get real money instantly on Skin Cashier, and you can do it with PayPal. So this isn't a euphemism. I'm not just saying this is kind of a thing. This is like a real thing. You can do this. You could probably buy somebody a skin for a gift today. Now, so far, I'm only talking about buying and trading skins, right? But we're here talking about gambling and video gaming together. You can also gamble skins. So how does that work? What is the actual mechanism, right? What's the real relationship between these gambling sites, the best gambling sites, and CSGO is not the only one. Rust is another one. There are other sites. This is just probably the most popular one. So here's the mechanism. You export your skins. You've got an inventory of skins. Let's say you have 25 skins. 5 of them are going to be great that you want to keep. 10 of them are going to be, okay. That's 15, right? I'm a psychology guy, not a math guy. So that leaves you with, another 10 that are, crappy or duplicates or whatever. So your friend comes over and he sees that you got 10 skins that really are not that great. So he says, what are you doing with those skins that are not that great? Why don't you do something with them? And you're like, what are you talking about? And he says, do something with them. Do something with them. And you finally figure out what he's talking about, and you go onto one of these sites, and you start gambling with your virtually worthless skins, or at least worthless to you. And then what happens? What happens when anybody gambles? Eventually, they go away. Those duplicate skins that you're willing to lose go away. And then you move into your mediocre skins. You start gambling those. And then you go back to your original video game, CSGO, and you start playing in order to harvest some skins out. So now you are playing a video game to get skins to go onto a gambling site to do more gambling. So you're doing gambling-like behavior in order to do actual gambling for real money. Do you see the mechanism? This is how it really happens. This is a real person that I really worked with doing that real mechanism on that actual game. This client at 15 years old was playing CSGO, trading or gambling his duplicates until he got himself to a point where he was down $50,000. Remember how the money can go to buy skins? Because he couldn't win or couldn't get enough out of loot boxes fast enough, he went on the sites with real money and started just buying them so he could gamble them. And eventually, he comes from money. I work with a lot of clients that have money. So his parents bailed him out at 15 and said, "Don't you do that again." And he didn't for a few years, until he discovered microtransactions in esports, betting on in-play sports betting. Does everybody know what that is? You can bet on the next serve in a tennis match. You can bet on the next pitch in baseball. You can bet who's going to score the next basket in basketball. So there can be hundreds of bets inside one game. Just like it's real fast. Remember we were talking a couple, was it yesterday? Over in the ballroom, we were talking about how fast you can bet in a slot machine. That's sort of exact same thing. And what's the fastest bets now? This, in-play sports betting is the fastest. So young people get primed doing microtransactions in video games and unregulated gambling, then they start doing this. Here's another one. This client, really interesting guy, 20 years old, working full-time, going to college full-time. He also plays esports for his college team. Major college has a college football team, college baseball team, and a college Rocket League team. So his college plays other colleges in esports. And he's on the team because he's really good. So for fun, he also gambles on CSGO. And he was doing that same mechanism that I was just telling you about. He got himself down, but only hundreds of dollars. He wiped out his paycheck and went to his parents and said, "I just, wiped out my paycheck. I don't have any money. Can you float me some cash to get me through the week?" Parents were like, "What are you talking about? Why don't you have any money?" So he told them. His parents got a little excited because I have met the parents. They're a little excitable. And he did the right thing. He self-banned. He went on each individual site that he was playing and he banned himself. And the parents called me. They had me come see him, and we talked for like 3 sessions. He felt like he solved the problem. It was really just kind of a money thing. He just kind of spent too much and banned himself, so he felt like he was okay. But after 3 sessions, he disappeared. And then a few weeks later, the company he was working for realized that they were underpaying him. And so they paid him the money they owed him all at once, a couple $1,000s. So he bought some food to stock up in his dorm room, took his girlfriend out to a nice dinner, came home, and spent $2,000 on Madden in-game purchases. Madden card packs are loot boxes. Loot boxes are random number generators, just like slot machines. He's opening these card packs hoping to get skins that really affect gameplay or actual players that he can put on his team to improve his Madden football team just for fun. $2,000. So he and I have another appointment 2 weeks from now, 10 days from now. So you can do token wagering too. There's like no research on this. This is all like anecdotal stuff. Token wagering, you can do it on Dota. That's a good example. It can be purchased through gameplay or real money. It's all really the same stuff. It's just, you know, done with crypto, actually. I was gonna show you a video, but it's actually acting a little weird on this laptop. So I'm just gonna tell you the story real quick about Taiga. Anybody know about Taiga? You guys, Janet and Jeremy, know about Taiga? He was a professional gamer. He was playing Dota professionally, and he just lost interest in his sport. And he got down emotionally, so he started gambling. Lost over $600,000, all of his winnings as a professional gamer, and then went public and just started telling people, hey, I needed help, I got help, I had a gambling problem. If anybody out there who admires me thinks that, you know, they have a problem, you can contact me, and I think you should get into treatment too. So really kind of stood up and did the right thing. But this is part of a Reddit chat. Reddit's always cool for some interesting stuff, and this is something they were talking about on Reddit about Dota. If you're not familiar with Dota, it's not a new game at all, but it is pretty advanced. I wanted to show you the video because it's pretty crazy. If you haven't seen it, it's nothing like Mario Brothers, right? But anyway, so what this Redditor is saying is, what happened to the Dota 2 betting sites? That's the whole reason I was even watching Dota tournaments. How about that? Now, we don't know anything about this Redditor. That's the real problem with Reddit, is you don't know anything about these people that are posting. But he's kind of, you know, crying about what happened to it. You know, there's no more item betting allowed. Be nice if that came back. But another Redditor had an answer for him, that the company that makes Dota added a 7-day trade cooldown period, which essentially shut down that gambling market on those items. And this has been bugging me the whole time. I don't know if you guys can see that. So the reason that got shut down is they felt like kids were gambling on that, which is what he says here. So Valve, the maker of Dota, seemed to try to do the right thing and push kids away from their item gambling. But another Redditor spoke up and said, kids aren't playing Dota. Kids are gambling with money in crypto. Now, race you to that tree. Loser buys dinner. Is this gambling? Is it? Race you to that tree. Loser buys dinner. There's no buy-in. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. You put $10 under that rock, I'll put $10 under that rock. Race you to that tree and back. First one back to the rock gets $20. That's gambling. For sure, right? We can all agree on that one. That's what Bit Brawl is. This is token-based gambling, video game gambling. Here's how it works. We each buy in. We don't have to know each other, but we buy in. We buy tokens. Let's say we buy $20 worth of tokens each. We take 5 tokens, let's say, hypothetically. We put up 5 tokens. We take our avatar. My avatar fights your avatar. We're fighting, and we control these avatars. The winning avatar gets all 10 tokens. That's gambling, right? It's flat out gambling. But it's skill-based, right? Because we're controlling those avatars. That explains it really the same way. And it's crypto. There's a 10% rake for the website. That seems a little high, but okay, if you're willing to do it. Player versus player. So they're saying, you know, because it's skill-based, it's not gambling. So what's the big deal with it being crypto? Well, crypto's anonymous. You don't have to put in your banking information. It's fast. The withdrawal limits are high. That's a crypto gambling site. Looks like a video game site. That's a crypto gambling site. Straight up casino, right? And it's licensed. So, hey, it's licensed. It's got to be legit, right? Licensed in Curacao. They all are. All three of these are. This is the culmination of this entire presentation. That's why I made it big. This is loot box gambling on crypto being advertised. That's a convergence of the whole thing. This is the entire presentation in half a slide. Loot box gambling on crypto. Technology, video game, gambling. Right there. So, Dr. Joe Adams, he was my first mentor. He was young enough to be my child, but I learned a lot from this guy. He told me, I was about 15 minutes in the field, and he said to me, our clients aren't stupid. They're getting something from their behavior. I remember that with every single client I talked to. They're getting something out of their behavior with need satisfaction. A harmonious passion is something we like to do, but we don't have to do. For me, it's video gaming. I love to play video games, but I don't have to. I'm not hooked on it. An obsessive passion, different story. That's something we have to do. Remember I told you I'm a person in recovery? I know all about doing stuff you have to do. That's what video gaming and gambling can be for some people. People bet more online because it doesn't seem like real money. I heard other speakers talk about this today too. This is 100% true. I literally have had clients say that to each other, not even to me. I've heard them say it to each other. And we know this is true because there are other corollaries to this. You ever talk to somebody on the phone who doesn't know how to talk on the phone? Right? Because they're not in front of somebody. In front of you, they're totally different. How about keyboard warriors? People that are more than happy to act like a jerk behind a computer. It's the same basic principle. So what are we doing for these people? CBT, right? CBT, CBT, CBT. Change their thoughts, it'll change their feelings, it'll change their behavior. But what have we been talking about all day? What's the criticism of CBT? Doesn't really focus on emotions, does it? And what have we been talking about? Well, gambling's not about money. Gambling's about emotions. And video gaming and gambling are the same thing. What's more complicated than lying to people, video gaming, harvesting to gamble, and buying skins to gamble? I mean, the whole thing seems complicated, and hiding it, and I don't know. It seems like a complex experience. Doesn't address the underlying causes. The way I work with clients who have gambling problems, they come to me, I tell them to find 3 things they're not doing now that seem like fun to them. I don't want them to be who they used to be. I want them to create a new life. While they're finding 3 things that they're not doing now that sound like fun, we work on the underlying causes. What made you susceptible to this problem in the first place? And then the problems tend to more or less evaporate. We create a new life that is better than the old life. A lot of gamblers, people with gambling problems, are beating themselves up because of the way they violated their own values. They don't need to be blamed for their problems. Anybody ever heard of this? Pip-Paddock? I got $5 for anybody who's heard of this. All right. This is a small study done in Spain to be an evidence-based treatment for video game addiction. I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce it in Spanish. My Spanish is beyond horrible, but I can pronounce it in English. Individualized psychotherapeutic program for addiction to information and communication technologies. This study was done with only, and I'm embarrassed to even tell you, 4 participants. But it does seem to show progress, or promise, I mean. And it's interesting. It's pretty easy to find. But there's nothing else out there that's evidence-based for video game addiction. Nothing I know of. No research out there. So what are we treating when they come into our office? Depression and anxiety disorders and the underlying causes. We've been talking about convergence through the entire program. It's all coming together. It all came together in that one slide. We've got gaming elements in gambling things going on in games, gambling on games, simulated online gambling, social media that's gambling. You buy in for free and then you got to pay to keep playing. Advertising everywhere in your video games. You should see what my phone looks like. In some countries, it is both. That's all I got.